All right. Hey, y'all, welcome back. So it's been a few months. Okay, it's been a very long time since I've uploaded something for you guys. So I keep getting the same question. Hey, what about running a pedal through an effects loop and things like that? When you're dealing with the Marshall code 25 or code 50, you don't have an effects loop. So I'm going to show you guys how I'm doing things, and hopefully it'll work for you. Several videos ago, I gave you guys one of my go-to presets. I call it Metal Chunk, and it's one of my go-to presets. It's an overdriven channel that allows just the right amount of breakup, but without being overbearing. And then what I do after that is I take and I throw a Tight Metal Junior into it, and that really kind of tightens things up, gives it a little bit more gain, and then it goes from there. If I'm playing something like Norma Jean or something that really needs that thick wall of sound, and again, this is based upon your pickups and things like that, but typically even with my ESP over here, with the JBs and the 59s in it, when I'm playing something like Norma Jean, I'm gonna want that thick wall of sound and just a little bit extra gain on top of it. So what I do is I throw a Carolina Reaper on top of that. So what I'll do is I'll show you guys my setup, and then I'll give you guys a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. And again, you'll have to forgive the mess because I kind of got moved into a smaller little space, so far as guitar, but it'll give you guys a really good idea of what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and how I'm achieving some of the sounds that I'm achieving without having to futz with all the knobs, without having to go through everybody's preset and pre-channel and things like that. If I haven't given you the numbers for my Metal Chunk channel, then what I'll do is I will include those down below in the comment section or in the description section, so that you can do that. And if you want to throw like a tube screamer or even like one of those modded Big Muff pies, this will actually work really well for that. It gives you just the right amount of breakup when you pop off the pedal, if you're playing something like Mastodon or something like that, to where it's sort of clean, kind of acts like a like a Jubilee. Almost, whereas the Jubilee, like the harder you play, the more it gets. So it kind of acts like that. So before we get started and we start giving like sound examples, let me show you guys what I'm doing, right? So I've got my Marshall code. Again, forgive the mess. Sinuses, not corona. I've got my Marshall code over here, right? The really small area that I've got it into. So I've got a volume pedal, Ernie Ball volume pedal. This thing's old as stuff. But it works, and it works really well. Then I'm running that through an amp tweaker Tight Metal Junior, okay? And then if I need a little extra boost for leads or anything like that, I run it through this Carolina Reaper. I generally don't use the overdrive function because I find it too thick. And I find it too overbearing. It's not crisp enough. So it's just really thick. If you're trying to do chugs or you're trying to do chunks or anything like that, it's just gonna really just sound more like a flub to me. So I generally don't use the overdrive function. I will, however, throw the fuzz section on there. So let me guys show you this so you can see how I have my fuzz set, right? And again, this is just a guideline. You have to set it up how you want it set up. All right, so today we're gonna be using my ESP right over here. We're gonna be using Old Red. Had her for a long time, really enjoy her, gives me a good variation of sounds. So we're gonna use her. I'm gonna run it through my volume pedal, through the amp tweaker, and through the Carolina Reaper. So I will give you guys some sound examples of with stuff on, with stuff off, and you can go from there, okay? And again, this is with the amp stuck in a corner, okay? But you still get some really great sounds. So here we go. Let me put you up here, and then we'll get going. All right, so so you always hold the neck, always. Okay. Nice little, Dunlop Gator, right? So I'm gonna flick on the volume pedal, right? And this is just the amp. This is just the amp with no other settings on top of it. So I can get it a nice, good breakup. It's not quite distorted, right? There's that flub that I'm talking about, and that's not really what we want. So, but you get a nice breakup, you know, not really distorted, not really overdriven. It's good for, you know, Normagene, it's good for Mastodon, things like that, where they have those areas that don't really require a clean sound, but less than just, you know, full bore. So I'm going to kick on the Type Metal Junior and give you guys an idea of what I'm doing here. So Type Metal Junior. So it's not too bad. That's probably due to, you know, that sound is probably due to the way that it sits in the corner, things like that. Maybe the mic doesn't quite pick it up there, but it sounds a little bassy. It sounds a little bit stuck in a box, but it gets the job done. So there are times with this, like I said, with Normagene and things like that, where I'm going to want to run something a little bit thicker, with something with a little bit of an octave or below it. With the Carolina Reaper, it tends to run like a half step low on the octaver on the fuzz channel. Don't know why. I think that's just the way that it was designed. But it really kind of kicks in a really bigger, thicker sound. So we'll kick that on. So typical fuzz pedal. So again, how you set it up really kind of depends on this, how you have your amp set up. So I like my, hold still. I like my Metal Chunk channel. It's been my go-to for over a year now. Absolutely love it. I think it's great. So what I'll do is I'll include the samples for the Metal Chunk in there. With the volume pedal, if you're not using one of those, I highly suggest that you do. With a volume pedal, you can kind of roll it back maybe a quarter, and you can get more of those clean sounds. But most anything I play, I don't really need clean sounds. I just kind of keep it on an already overdriven amp, and just throw some gain, some extra gain on top of it. It's not a tube amp, you know, it's a solid state amp, so it doesn't really operate on the same principles as a tube amp, but you are just throwing more signal saturation in there on a solid state amp. And it works out great for me, especially with what I play, everything from old Smashing Pumpkins, you know, to newer stuff. So it's just kind of a really versatile amp setting. So I'll include that for you guys. If you have any questions, let me know. But those are the two pedals that I use almost exclusively. I think at one point I might want to throw, I want to say it's the Walrus Fathom in there or something like that, just to kind of add a little depth to some of the cleans. But I don't really know what's you know, what I'm going to do. But for now, this is what works for me. Hope it works for you guys. Have a great day.